The Media Center for Art Education and Technology, a service of the Monterey County Office of Education, along with the Herald Live, presents PrepNation. Now to your hosts, Dave Kellogg and John Devine.
Welcome to PrepNation. I'm Dave Kellogg alongside John Devine. It's January, which means high school basketball, and some interesting stories have come up already with league season just starting. One of them is Monterey. What can we expect out of the Toreadors this year, John?
Well, probably some growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
They're a young team. They lost three starters last year, averaged a total of 35 points and 20 rebounds between those trio. But they've been competitive this year, you know. And the thing with Monterey is they got moved into the NBL's Gablin division this year, and a lot of people question it because of all the players they lost. I talked to Greg Daniels earlier this week, and he said we welcomed it. I asked Greg, though, do you wish this had been last year? Because they ran through the NBL, winning every game by 15, 20 points, and then they got knocked out in the first round of the playoffs. Really weren't prepared. This would have prepared them last year had they been in this league, but they didn't have this last year.
So do you feel like they're over their head, or
no, not at all?
No,
they just
water here.
Yeah, they'll try. You know, I've said this all year. The 1 through 7 in the NBL's Gablin division, those are our 7 best teams in our area. You know, with all due respect to the other leagues, these are the 7 best teams in here. So they got it right in terms of forming this equity league. It's just what Greg told me today is we don't want to go back down. You know, we want to stay in this league, and in order for them to do that, they're going to have to be in the top 5 at some point, which they're capable of doing, as is every other team in that league.
I assume Monterey would be good enough to qualify for the CCS playoffs out of this league.
I've already qualified pretty much, just because if you have that non-league record, it's 500 or better, you go into the postseason. And it will help them when they get into the Division III playoffs. They will be competitive. But I think they're thinking more lines of, hey, we can compete for a title. We believe that. Now, whether that happens or not remains to be seen. They dropped their opener to San Benito, but it was a good game. They lost by 6 points.
As John said, he talked to Greg Daniels today on Tuesday. Let's hear what he has to say about the move up into the Gablin division.
Well, moving into the NBL's Gablin division, I accepted it. I didn't have no problem with it. We were a unanimous vote from our previous season, so you know, I just look at it as a challenge, you know, and we welcome the challenge, you know, so we have no problem with it at all.
Let me ask you this though, Greg, did it come a year too late? Because I felt if you had had this caliber of play last year en route to winning the Monterey Big League title, it would have helped you in the playoffs.
Yeah, it might have helped us in the playoffs. Burlingame was a good team. That was a tough first round matchup for us, even if, you know, no matter what league we were in. But of course, last year my team was, we were super talented. This year, this team is talented also. Just you know, we're just a little young in certain spots, and you know, maybe a little undersized in other spots. But you know, hopefully we can stay in this league so we can show what we're really made of.
Now, some people are saying this is a rebuilding year for you. Obviously, you lost on nearly 35 points and 20 rebounds to graduation. But did you see it differently?
Nah, I never look at anything as a rebuilding. You know, we're always trying to maintain, you know, some consistency within our program. You know, we always want to compete for a league title, no matter what league we're in, and we think we can compete for a league title. You know, that is always our goal. So, you know, it's okay.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Can you window or contend with one guy averaging nearly half the points during the course of the season? Now, I'm guessing you'd like to have a little more balance.
Of course, I would love to have more balance, and the balance is going to come. You know, we've had games where, you know, other guys have scored 19 and 20 points other than Chris Russo, but without a doubt, he's our leader. You know, so, but we do need more help, and I'm sure help is coming. Are
you starting to see it though over the course? You've played now 8, 10, 12 games. Are you starting to see a little more balance, a little more confidence in some of the younger kids?
Yeah. Not necessarily the younger kids. I have 2 more seniors that they were part of the team last year, and, you know, and they're coming along. Jonathan Hawkins, his shot is getting a lot more consistent. He was dealing with a nagging hamstring injury, and that can affect any shooter, their legs on their shot. But his shot is really coming along, and if him and Kyle Neely, when they're going, we're a tough team to beat.
Now, Greg, you've lost 4 games this year by 6 points or less. So essentially, we're talking about a couple of 3-point goals from potentially your record being completely different than what it is. Do you think about it, or do you even discuss it with your teammates as motivation, how close we really are?
You know, I try not to think about it too much. We have to move on to the next game. But we've talked about it. We've talked about closing the close game, or, you know, starting fast, finishing strong. Because in a couple of those games, we kind of blew it the last couple minutes,
right.
You know, whether it was a turnover, missed free throws, or just lack of execution. So we have to get better in that. And that's a part of being young and a little inexperienced too. So, you know, hopefully that can help us in league.
Now, there's been some talented players who've come through Monterey, you being one of them a few years ago.
Yeah.
But as a coach, now in your 8th year at Monterey, where does Chris Russo rank among some of your better players?
I mean, he ranks right up there at the top. I think he's probably going to break the Monterey High scoring record, all-time scoring record this year. I'm sure he's going to go over 1,000 if he hasn't went over 1,000 yet. I told him I hadn't checked yet, but I mean, his sophomore year, I think he averaged 15 points. Last year, 17, 18. This year, 25 points. So he's right up there. He leads us in rebounds, leads us in steals, assists. I would rank him right up there at the top.
All right, Greg. Salinas Monterey on Friday. Thanks, Greg.
Go Doors.
John, what do you like about this Monterey squad?
I like how they hustle. I mean, it's a young team, a lot of energy. They got a freshman that starts in Carter Aldretti, and they got a senior named Chris Russo, who's a 3-time starter. Three-year starter, get that right there. He's a member of the Herald's All-County team last year. Chris is averaging over 25 points a game right now. He leads the county in scoring right now. He's an electric-type player. If he gets hot, he's very hard to stop, and he's a rather big guard at 6'1", 6'2", so he can post up smaller guards. But the energy of the Tortos, maybe they're young and they're oblivious to the fact that they're supposed to be rebuilding, but I like the energy and how they play.
I know you talked to the coach about this, but is, in your opinion, Chris Russo going to need some more help? Is he going to be able to score 25 points a game through the season?
I think so. Now, and we did talk about that a little bit. I asked him, can one guy who averages almost half your points a game, can you be competitive that way? Right. And Greg said, yeah, we can, but I need more balance. We need more balance. And he says we're starting to see that a little bit now as we get into that. They've played, 11, 12 games now, counting non-league play, and he's starting to see some of that youth mature a little bit as they get into the season. Now, again, they're in a very strong league in the Gavilan Division, and it's going to be trial by fire most of the season. But he doesn't want to see, Chris is also a distributor, and one of the things Chris and I talked about is, you score 25 points a game, but you don't want the rest of your players kind of standing around just watching you play.
Right.
You got to distribute the ball a little bit. And he said, absolutely.
I know I bring up the playoffs a couple times. It's because it's basketball, and you're going to the playoffs fairly soon. So they've got to be encouraged at Monterey that they're so young, but by the end of the season, as you said before, sophomores tend to be playing more like juniors, juniors more like seniors, that at the end of the season they're a much better team.
Yeah, and that's what Chris talked about a little bit better. Just in the first 12 games of the season, he's seen this maturity in some of the younger players on the team, because there's only 3 seniors on the team, so it is a young team. But, he's seeing it, and they're starting to, he's starting to feel more comfortable with them in terms of getting them the ball and stuff like that. And, he makes some nice passes. If they're not paying attention, it's going to hit them right in the head.
So they're establishing more trust and
chemistry. Yeah. Okay. Again, they're in a strong league. I probably said that 3 times now, but I think it's going to be tough for them because but every game is competitive in that league. And we'll get into this a little later, but with a certain player being out for an extended period of time now at another school, that league's wide open right now.
Well, for now, let's cut straight to Chris Russo and see what he has to say about the team's relative inexperience.
Sitting here in one of the more historic venues in all the county in terms of basketball at Monterey High, Chris, is this truly a home field advantage for you guys?
Definitely. With only one side of there's only one bleacher, and it's so small that you hear the fans, and always more Monterey fans. So you get a better, you play better, I feel like.
Now the court isn't regulation sized. The baseline is really about 3 feet from the wall. Does it force you to play more of an up-tempo offense?
Definitely. It's not 94 feet, so you play more up-tempo. You don't run out of energy as fast. You just keep playing, and that's our style of play for the past 20 years, is up-tempo.
Do opponents complain about the gym?
Not that I know of. No opponents were complaining.
Any dead spots on the wooden floor?
No.
Okay. Perfect. Hey, how much pressure did you feel coming into this year, trying to replace, arguably 35 points a game from 3 starters?
Yeah, last year and this year are completely different. I don't know. Last year I knew I was more of a facilitator. This year, coming in, I knew I had to be more of a scorer, more of a leader for my team. I didn't feel any pressure though, because we got a lot of young guys that know how to play basketball.
All right. But no pressure at all, even from the start, in trying to fill a void like that.
No pressure at all. Just play my game.
It certainly doesn't look like he's averaging 25 points a game. What have you seen in this team to make you feel like it can contend? Because there is a lot of youth out here.
Everyone plays hard. We play great defense. Everyone competes all the time, and we got a lot of young guys who just want to win, and that goes far.
Sure. Now, right now, as we mentioned, you lead the county in scoring at nearly 25 points a game. But as you mentioned, you're a distributor as well. How are you able to kind of mix the pair, because you don't want 4 guys just standing around watching you?
Nah, well, coach sets up in a lot of good plays and situations where everyone can get the ball, or I can get the ball and drive and look to kick. So that's basically it.
You ever been in a league so competitive? I mean, from 1 through 7, anybody in these teams can win.
Nah, this is crazy. I like it though. It makes us compete more. There's never an off day.
You wish you'd had it last year?
Yeah, last year it would have helped us in the playoffs, I think.
Hey, Chris, before we get out of here, what's keeping Monterey from, getting back into the title chase, so to say? Because what I've seen is maybe you guys are just 1 or 2 plays from your record being completely different than what it is right now.
Yeah, we lost, I think, 4 games, like
6 points or less.
6 points or less, yeah. But we'd be 9-2, 9-3 with those games. We can't finish, seems like. If we start learning how to finish and learn to play better, I think we'll be good.
Can you attribute that, though, to the youth on this team?
Yeah, that's youth.
Still learning?
Only 3 seniors on the team, a freshman starting. I mean, yeah.
One of the more exciting players in the county. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
So, John, a certain player hurt on a certain team. Fill us in.
Yeah, it's not breaking news. It might have been by the time we recorded this, but Noah Allen, there had been speculation. Did he hurt his wrist? Whether he sprained it? What happened? I got tired of hearing all the rumors, and I just asked him point blank, "Are you all right?" He's got a cast on his wrist. He's got a fractured wrist, and it likely will not come off until February 1st. That's the goal. That's what he told me. He hopes to have it off by February 1st, which means Palma's going to play at least 6 league games without him. I think that's a significant loss. We're talking about a kid on his way to UCLA, a 4-year starter, our MVP last year for the Herald's All-County team, and having a good year, averaging over 20 points a game, really just asserting himself for those Chieftains. That's a big loss.
And when did he hurt his
December
wrist?
21st in a game. He kind of fell on it awkwardly when he landed. Tried to actually play on it the next day and still had 14 points, but knew something wasn't right. Had it checked out, and turns out it's a fracture.
So the deal is now just rest it up, get it fully healed before he comes back.
Well, yeah, and obviously he's got a career beyond high school.
Right.
I mean, he's on his way to UCLA. I mean, they don't want to take any chances with this. I've been told he could play if they really needed him, but they're not going to take that risk. They're going to leave it in a cast for at least 2 more weeks and see what happens.
What kind of team is Palma without him?
Clearly a different team. This is also a team that lost 6'6" power forward Jack Powers, who decided to focus solely on football. He's weighing 6 different offers right now from certain schools. So they lost another guy in the middle. That being said, they're still winning. They're 9-1. They've won 2 straight without Noah right now. But they do have a big game on Friday with Seaside.
That's what I'm saying.
And Seaside, we talked about, these are our 1 and 2 ranked teams in our county polls. So I think we'll learn a little bit more about Palma and its depth on Friday.
You really recently saw Seaside against Salinas, I believe it was. Yes. What did you think?
Well, a lot of talent, a lot of athleticism. I'm just wondering if there's enough balls to go around right now. They've got 4 legitimate guys that can score on that team. They're still trying to develop that chemistry. I mean, last year it was Kyle Heave and Joseph Jabakowski. This year it's those 2 plus the Turner brothers. Let me tell you, Ronnie Turner is an electrifying player. I watched this guy do something. I don't want to call him Jordan-esque, but he took off somewhere just beyond the free throw line and just slammed one. And just a very athletic guy, but they need him to shoot more, in my opinion. I mean, he didn't shoot a lot in that game. He had 6 points. And his brother Michael, he needs to shoot a little bit more too. Again, this is a balanced team. It's an unselfish team, but I didn't see that chemistry. This is also a team that had an 18-point lead against Salinas and saw it cut to 3 with 18 seconds left in the game.
How big a game is it for him to face Palma, especially with Noah Allen out?
Well, I think it's a bigger game for Seaside right now because it's at home. It's at third place. I mean, in my opinion, they have to win this game because if Noah does come back, chances are when they play again at Palma, he will be on the court at Palma. Seaside's 9-1 as well. They're off to a fast start. But they got to develop. They got to find that chemistry right now. Now, I didn't see it. I saw moments, at times where you sat there and said, "Wow, this team's electric," and then I saw other moments where I'm saying something's not right here.
Do they feel like this is their opportunity, the window of opportunity to win league, to get up on an early lead on Palma?
I think they felt that way before Allen got hurt.
Okay.
I mean, I really believe Seaside believes they're a legitimate title contending team, one that can go further into the playoffs than they have in maybe 15, 20 years.
Now, how has Palma looked without Noah Allen?
Well, they look good in their 2 games against Pacific Grove and Cappuccino, but again, that's the caliber of competition, so I'm not sure if they've really been tested or not. They, we're going to find that out on Friday when they play Seaside, because that'll be a hostile environment, big crowd. I mean, everybody's talking about this game already. Been talking about it for 2 weeks.
Does Palma need to win league to have some real momentum going into the CCS playoffs?
Not necessarily. I mean, if they get Noah back, in time for the playoffs, they're going to be a factor in the postseason too. I don't think Coach Pollard is thinking about that right now. I think he believes we can win without Noah. We're just a different team. I mean, he's got a couple other guys, namely Jack Tardeau, who can shoot well from the outside, and sophomore Jack Burleson, a little point guard that plays well. His dad was a legend at Palma, Bob Burleson. Right. So I think he still feels he has enough talent to win. It's just they're not the same team, obviously, without a UCLA-bound 6'6" guard.
Right. You saw Seaside Salinas, and we talked a lot about Seaside. What about Salinas? What did you see out of them?
A little bit of a transition with them too. As everybody knows, Joe Chappell, who was there for 41 years, is no longer the head coach, having retired last year. Jens Gordon's the new coach, and probably a name familiar to you and some of the older audience, I guess. I mean, he went to North Salinas back in the 80s when they won a couple of CCS titles and had a very good career at Santa Clara University and a cup of coffee with the San Antonio Spurs. He told me one time probably the only thing that kept him from making the Spurs was a guy named David Robinson. But Jens played professionally in Europe for a while, and he's coached a little bit at the lower levels. This is his first real gig as a varsity coach, and I really liked the job, the energy he showed in that game. The one thing he told me with his team now is we're trying to cut down on the turnovers. And what impressed me about Salinas in the game against Seaside is they looked horrible for 3 quarters. I mean, they couldn't do anything. Their big guy, Joseph Delk, just couldn't get going. They're down by 18. And Jens told him, hey, listen, we got to chip away at this game, but the first way to do that is to get stops.
Okay.
And again, they were down by 18. They cut it to 3. So he's got Salinas going in the right direction. This is a rebuilding team too. There's not a lot of starters back from last year, so they're kind of a newer team as well. But his energy, I think, is contagious.
Is he a big fundamentals guy, too?
He's a big guy, 6'9".
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. He's got his assistants back, or Chappell's old assistants, Kevin Price and Enrique Mendez, and I think that helps a little bit with the transition. But again, he looks like he's having fun out there, and I think that just rubs off on the players.
Okay. Also going on this time of year, we don't want to ignore, is soccer, and boys soccer. A big game coming up. That's Alisal against Seaside. Seaside having one of its best seasons in a long time, I think, isn't it? Yeah,
and you could say that about Alisal, but you could say that the last couple of years. This team has not lost a game in the regular season in 35 games. I mean, they've had a couple ties along the way, but it's 35 games without a loss in the regular season.
They're probably our most dominant team in the area in any sport.
We don't talk a lot about soccer, and we probably should, because they're not the only team that's dominant. You mentioned Seaside, they're playing well. North County last year went all the way to CCS finals, and even looking over the girls with Stevenson and Catalina, and Salinas High. These are all teams that have been postseason teams, so we have a good flux of soccer going on right now. But this game to me is a big game, maybe more so for Seaside right now, because they moved into this Gablin division this year after having a nice season last year in the old NBL. They're 5-2-2 right now. Again, Alisal, as we mentioned, hasn't lost a game in 9 meetings this year. But Alisal's kind of the gauge, you might say, in terms of where are you right now at this stage. And then they'll meet again later in the season. And it is at Alisal. It's a night game. They get nice crowds out there. So it'll be again, it'll be a test for Seaside to see where they are right now.
Okay. Who are some of the players we should be watching for?
I like Lorenzo Vasquez of Alisal. He's got 8 goals and 4 assists this year. Alisal's a balanced team. They don't have that one guy that's going to score 60 goals like they did a decade ago. They don't have a David Estrada who now plays for the Seattle Sounders, but they have a lot of balance, and it's a team. And their defense is what impresses me. They've recorded 5 shutouts this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And not to take it away from Seaside, but they've only allowed 1 goal in their last 4 matches.
So that'll be interesting, and then they'll meet again later in the season.
At Seaside.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, this weekend, Saturday night, 49ers, we have a local connection.
We do, unfortunately.
49ers Packers.
Yeah, unfortunately, he's not with the 49ers.
Yeah.
That's Evan Smith. He's a Salinas High graduate from about 9 years ago. He is now the starting center for the Packers.
Okay.
You know, took over for Jeff Saturday, the longtime former Colts center who was with Green Bay this year. He now gets to feel Aaron Rodgers' hands under his.
Yeah.
But he's done a nice job. I mean, this is a guy that was an undrafted free agent 3 years ago, made the team as a guard, then was released, spent 10 weeks in Salinas training alone, wondering if he'd ever play again.
Okay.
And now here he is, you know, back in the NFL starting and in a playoff game.
Good for him. Wow, and he went to like Idaho or something.
Idaho, yeah. He played every line position at Idaho during his 4 years there.
There you go.
Sorry,
Make yourself more versatile and valuable to NFL teams.
I love Evan, but go Niners.
Yeah. Turning now to college basketball, I'm here with Tommy Wright, who covers CSUMB for the Herald. Tommy, CSUMB basketball got back on the floor after a long break. I think they went on break December 8th. How did they look?
Yeah, the women were on break for nearly a month, and they looked really good in their first game back, but they struggled in the second game. It's similar to what happened after their Thanksgiving break, where they played really solid in that first game back, but then they struggled in the second of a back-to-back, and really more than anything else, it was just the shooting went cold for both of those losses. Those were only 2 losses this season, and the defense played really well in both games. In this latest loss, they ended up giving up a lot of points, but that's more due to the fact that it ended up going to triple overtime.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there was a lot of time there for CSULA to score points, and eventually they weren't able to hang on in the end.
Okay. So CSUMB won't have to deal with another extended break until their season's over, right?
Yeah, they're hoping they're going to play through for a while here.
Yeah. They have been on the road most of the season. How do you think that's affected them?
I think to some degree it's hurt them. They're not a team that's necessarily struggled on the road, but if you look at their home numbers over the past 2 seasons, they're 24-5 at the Kelp Bed. So I mean that's a .828 winning percentage. So obviously they would rather be at home than on the road with those kind of numbers.
But being on the road, I mean, obviously they did the scheduling. Being on the road, is that going to toughen them up for the league season run here they're in?
Oh yeah, I definitely think so. And also their schedule's a little more stacked to the end, so I think that if everything falls the way they would like it to, it'll end up being not like last year, but the year before that, where they went on a really good run to end the year and just kept that momentum going all the way into the NCAA tournament.
Now, who do they have on tap for this weekend?
So this weekend, the Otters are going to be hosting Cal Poly Pomona and Humboldt State. Both these teams are 500 in CCAA play, so they're not necessarily bad teams, but I think these are both games that the Otters expect to win.
Besides picking up a win, what do you think they're looking to accomplish? I mean, are they looking for good, tight defensive games, or are they hoping to score a lot of points this weekend?
Well, Renee Jimenez is always looking for strong defense. That's really what this team's built on. So first and foremost, I would say that's probably what they're looking to continue to do, is play some solid defense. But the team really struggled in this past loss at CSULA shooting, so I expect that that's another thing that they'll be working on, trying to improve that shooting percentage. I think something that they're going to have to try and do is try and get the ball into the paint more, try and take some more high percentage shots.
Slow it down and pound it a little bit, huh?
Yeah, definitely.
So what about the men? What have they been up to since we've been gone?
Like the women, the men had a win and a loss over the past weekend, and well, that may not be that big of a deal, just going 500 in 2 games. That win was their first win on the road for a really long time, so it's their first win since February 12th, 2011 on the road.
Oh,
so
wow. Okay.
So that's definitely something that they can pick up on, but at the same time, I don't think Rob Bishop is necessarily looking for sentimental wins, sentimental victories, that kind of stuff. I think they still have some real hope for this season. Okay.
Is that, you said sentimental wins, but is that a milestone win for them to show that they can win on the road after not doing it for 2 years?
Yeah, I think it's a stepping stone for them. I think this is something that they can build on. The teams, well, they've had a little bit of struggles in conference play. They're still 6-7 overall on the year, and they're just 1 game out of the 8th spot in the CCAA, and the top 8 teams all advanced to the conference tournament. So if they can make it there, then that'll be a big deal. And then once once you make it to that conference tournament, you never know. If you can make it through there and win that tournament, then you get that bid to the NCAA.
So are they about where they expected to be at this point in the season, kind of hovering around 500, or were they hoping for better or fearing for worse?
I think they'd probably hope to have been a little bit better than where they're at in conference play, but I think that it's probably close to where they would expect to be at this point. One thing that's definitely emerged is Alex Verteeg. He's really broken out as a star for them. The Fresno native, he's scored 20+ points in 5 games so far for them.
Okay.
So, and this is as opposed to the women's team that's built on defense. This team is much more built on offense.
Oh, okay.
They're one of the top scoring teams in the conference. They've scored 449 points in conference play. That's just 1 point below the leader. Of course, on the flip side, they're giving up more points than any other team, so it's more of an up-tempo style, so there's a lot more points scored on both sides. They're going to have to try and limit their opponents a little bit more. If they can just get a few more stops a game, I think they'll be in good shape.
So if I go to a men's-women's doubleheader, I'm going to see 2 contrasting styles out of the same school, huh?
2 very different styles, definitely.
Let's turn now to the JCs. How are MPC and Hartnell doing?
They're both in pretty good shape at this point. They're about to head into conference play. Actually, tomorrow is when they're starting conference play.
It's Wednesday, okay.
Yeah. Tomorrow for us, not necessarily for when you're watching the video, but that's something that we'll be looking into in the next couple of weeks. The MPC women have had a pretty good preseason heading into their league play. They're 8-6.
Okay.
And in addition to them, we also have a few more sports coming up at CSUMB. The water polo, they're getting started in their preseason, and actually baseball and softball are getting started in practice coming up here.
Hard to believe. I guess February's coming up. So,
so those are some more things we'll be talking about in the weeks to come.
Okay. That's it for Prep Nation this week. Please join us again next week.